East Shatter Zone. A shatter zone is a term historians use to describe a region that went through intense upheaval, usually because of warfare, disease, slavery, migration, or economic disruption. In the southeastern United States, this mainly refers to the period when European colonization, the 1600s, 1800s, disrupted Native American society. A shatter zone is an area where communities were broken apart, people were forced to move, populations declined sharply, different groups mixed together under stressful conditions. Think of it as a region where the old social order shattered and new mixed or relocated communities formed. How this affects genealogy in the southeastern U.S. Because of upheaval, tracing ancestors in the southeast can be difficult for several reasons. 1. Lost or incomplete records. Wars, removals, and epidemics meant many native African and early colonial records were never written or were destroyed. 2. Forced migrations and population mixing. Enslavement, Indian slave raids, and refugee movements caused families and entire groups to move hundreds of miles away. This means an ancestor from the Carolinas might end up in Florida, a native ancestor's tribe might change or merge. African or Sephardic ancestors may appear in unexpected regions. 3. Changing identities. Because of survival pressures, some Native communities joined others. Some families hid or altered their identities. Census takers mislabeled people as Black, white, mulatto, or free people of color, regardless of their actual heritage. This can create confusing or shifting labels in family records. 4. Tribal names and affiliations may not be consistent. An ancestor may appear under different tribal names across different periods. Some historic groups disappeared, merged, or were renamed. 5. Surnames are often unreliable. Enslaved Africans, displaced Native Americans, and mixed heritage families often adopted new surnames after relocation, missionization, enslavement, or to avoid persecution. Shatter zone solutions. 1. Cast a wider net. Don't limit yourself to one location. Because people in a shatter zone were often displaced, you may need to search multiple states and regions. Look beyond the county where ancestors appeared later and check records in surrounding counties, neighboring states, or areas tied to major migration paths. The Carolinas to Georgia, to Alabama, to Mississippi, to Louisiana. Many families moved repeatedly, even within a decade. 2. Follow communities, not just individuals. Entire groups move together during upheaval. If you identify neighbors, godparents, or witnesses in early documents, track them too. They often lead you to missing records of your own ancestors. Helpful documents, tax lists, land lotteries, court witness lists, church sponsor/godparent records. These clusters can reveal earlier origins. 3. Master non-traditional record types. Shadow zones often leave gaps in the obvious documents, censuses, birth records, etc., so rely on secondary or overlooked sources. Colonial and frontier records, Indian trade licenses, missionary and Moravian journals, colonial governor correspondence, Indian agency papers, treaties and land succession documents, local legal records, bastardy bonds, guardianship files, estate inventories, criminal records, tax digest, road crew lists, often list local mails, church records. Many relocated or mixed communities show up only in mission records. 4. Use name variants and spelling flexibility. In shatter zones, surnames changed, spellings varied, and people used native English, French, or Spanish versions of names depending on who recorded them. Always search phonetic variations and first name only entries. Example, chateau, chata, chatawa, cheto, chato. 5. Track land, not people. Land records survive better than many others. Search land grants, deeds, homestead records, Indian reservation allotments, Spanish land claims in Florida, and French colonial maps in Louisiana and Mississippi. Even if your ancestor isn't named, you may find neighbors they moved with, their earlier community, or records tracing older settlements destroyed or abandoned during upheaval. 6. Use racial labels as clues, not facts. In the chaotic Southeast, Native Americans were sometimes listed as white, mulatto, or free people of color, or Negro, or Black, or African. People of mixed African/Native ancestry were frequently mislabeled. Some newly formed Native communities were not recognized as tribes in documents. When labels shift over decades, assume identity concealment or bureaucratic reclassification, and search neighboring categories. Example, mulatto in the 17 to 1800s can mean African, Native, or mixed. Free colored communities often included Native families displaced by warfare, and white sometimes just meant not enslaved. 7. Use military and treaty records for Native connected lines. Many Southeastern Native families appear in the Creek and Cherokee rolls, muster rolls of Native scouts, War of 1812 auxiliary rolls, Indian removal claims, Eastern Cherokee applications, the Guillen Miller roll. Even if your ancestor isn't listed, these documents detail where communities moved from. 8. Look for hidden connections in probate records. Even if your ancestor wasn't wealthy, probate documents often name enslaved people, list apprentices, list mixed race minors placed under guardianship, show kinship networks through witnesses. Probate can reveal parentage, community membership, and Native/Black lines that were masked in censuses. 9. Search court records for mobility clues. Shadow Zone movement created legal paper trails, permissions to cross state lines, petitions for settlement on abandoned land, refugee claims, especially after the Creek War, and claims for property lost during raids. These records can point to earlier residences. 10. Don't assume a straight line lineage. Shatter zones caused adoptions into other communities, reconstituted families, people taking neighbors' surnames, orphans being raised by unrelated families. Use cluster research and document overlap, not just surnames, to reconstruct families.